Good evening, everyone. Nice to see so many of you have taken time off this evening and joined us for this wonderful session. And there is a lot to be learned from Mr. Pathak because there is an exciting hour ahead. So I welcome him and thank him for sparing the time to hold this session. And I will go through a brief introduction. Mr. Ardhendu Pathak is a consultant, trainer, mentor, author, and speaker, with expertise in innovation and R&D of highly engineered products. He is partner at Management Alignment Partners, a Zurich-based management consulting firm and co-founder of Coinvent Business Solutions, a company devoted to corporate trainings. He is a guest faculty at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Boston and has taught at the Skolkovo Institute of Science and Technology in Moscow. He has held important posts at Airbus, General Electric, and the National Institute of Ocean Technology, Chennai. He holds international patents and has contributed book chapters and papers in referred journals and has delivered invited talks at industrial and academic conferences. Mr. Pathak holds a Ph.D. from the University of Rhode Island, USA, and a master's from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. He is a distinguished alumnus of the College of Engineering, Pune. With that, I welcome Mr. Pathak to take over the session.
Thank you, Swati. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining. I will try to keep you entertained for the next 1 hour or so. We have some material to cover, so unless it is a really important point, I would request you to keep it till the end. I definitely prefer to questions and hear your comments, but please bear with me for some time. Once the presentation starts, it is in full screen and I may not be able to see your comments or raised hands, so please excuse me. So without further ado, we will get started. Everyone able to see my screen, hopefully, Swati?
Yes, we can, yes.
Yeah, so we'll get started. Swati has already spoken about me and no need to spend time here, except to add that part of the time that I spend these days is also painting, and that's why this topic, apart from science and technology, visual arts is also of interest to me, and that's how I got interested in this topic. So right off the bat, I have a question for all of you. And Swati, if you could launch the poll, please. Can machine be an artist? That's a question. And please use your computer or mobile from wherever you are joined to let us know what your thoughts are. So we have, I guess, 85% people voting. We have about 55% saying that yes, it can be an artist. About 30% saying no, and about 15% saying I'm not sure or undecided. Now, what we will do is I'm going to present you some things. And let's see by the end of this talk what your philosophical position is on this topic. This news came about a year and a half back, 2 years. A painting fetched 51 million at a rare auction, a painting called Mondrian painting. Now, who or what is Mondrian? And why somebody paid 51 million for this painting? Which Mondrian? was one of the abstract artists of last century, and he was also theoretician, and he started with representative art of florals, in fact, and increasingly it became abstract. To the point, he took his philosophical thoughts about what art should be to its logical end. So finally, he said that the art is not about reality. Art transcends the reality. And finally, his palette, the colors he used were reduced to three. He used only basic colors, red, yellow, and blue. He used only three values, black, white, and gray, just three variations, and just two directions, vertical and horizontal. And when I show you his painting, it will be clear what this means. And if you have not seen his painting before, after this, you will start noticing it in architectural patterns, in the dressing patterns, everywhere. So Mondrian palette is known, those of you who are in the visual art field. But even otherwise, you will start noticing it. So what we have here are four paintings. And I would like you to guess which of these was actual real painting by Pete Mondrian, which fetched $55 million. If you could launch the poll, Swati, that we will get people's verdict. Which one do you think is the actual painting? I can assure you one of these is the actual painting that got 55 million. All right. I mean, unless you have already known this, this is not a guessing game. 25% of you are going to be right. But surprisingly or not surprisingly, perhaps, given the intelligent group we have here, about half of you are right. Could share the results, please. So the reason I put this quiz out here is not to test whether you know the art history. The one painting here, this one, which was D, was the actual painting that got that huge prize in the auction. Now, rest of the paintings were generated by computer, and they looked uncannily similar to Pete Mondrian's art. So Pete Mondrian did not paint those paintings, but he could have painted those. That's the point. And those of us who are not tutored in art history or not familiar with the different schools and movements in the art history, we could be excused for mistaking one for another. So the point is that creativity, or what we consider art, is something that is indexed to what we know, what the society considers important. I'm sure, almost sure, none of us have 55 million to splurge on a painting. But if we had, would you have gone and bought one of these paintings without knowing anything about it? But people who are in the know do consider this to be a valuable painting. And the reason for that is that there is a history behind it. It has not evolved out of vacuum. So the art is not in vacuum. That's the point to note here. So there cannot be, because it is not in vacuum, it is indexed to something, and that something is society and what we consider to be an art. It becomes important to know what it is. So what is then creativity? It brings us to the question. It is not something absolute. It is subjective. So what is it? So creativity has, like important concepts in life. This is not something mathematically defined, obviously. But people have thought about it for thousands of years. In India, for example, Kavi Kulaguru Kalidas was said to have been blessed by goddess Kali, and hence the name, of course, Kalidas, which inspired him to write the epic poetry in Sanskrit. And that's not the only example. In Western culture also, we have the Greek muses who inspired people to do things. The Greek myth has that the muses whispered in the ears of the mortals, and that's what led them to do things, including the epic poetry and rhetorical skills and so on. The words like museum or amuse come from the same root, muse. These were goddesses of inspiration. So all through the history, people have assumed that creativity is something God-given. Some people are blessed and some people not as much. That's why when we see especially child prodigies like U. Srinivas or Pandit Kumar, we say, Bhagwan ki dene, somebody has brought it from upstairs, so to say. So the creativity was considered for a very long time, without getting into the definition of it, was a gift of gods to select few, not everyone. But the modern view is a little different. Modern view of the creativity considers it as a part of many dimensions of human intelligence. So all of us, that's a good news, all of us have some element of creativity, and how it gets evolved depends on how it is nurtured, how we take it forward, and so forth. But it is not something that cannot be, it may not be explainable, but the roots, the seeds are there in everybody's mind, everybody's hearts. And how we take it forward is what matters. Some people may be more gifted than others, but we all have elements of creativity. That's the modern psychology, that is what it holds. It is subjective and socially indexed. And we saw that the poll was designed to bring this point, that it is socially indexed. It is not in vacuum. It is quite subjective what is considered a good art or not. And that's why you hear these comments when people go to museums, especially Museum of Modern Art. If you go, then people would be saying, hey, my child could have done this. But these paintings are there hanging in the prestigious galleries. So it is subjective, definitely, and it is socially indexed. What society considers interesting, important, or art is what we take as a given received wisdom. And therefore, there is no single definition of what is creativity. But there have been many attempts, notably a researcher called Bowden has given the definition and explored this in the context of computer art in late 90s. And that's the definition that I have picked up here. So creative output. So this is a trick. Those of you who are in science and technology, if you cannot define something, then you define its properties. So creativity per se cannot be defined. So you define what constitutes creative output. So that's a trick that's being used here. So the output can be classified either as combinatorial, exploratory, or transformational. Now, what does it mean? Combinatorial means you take existing elements and combine in a novel way, and that produces a piece of art, and that's combinatorial. And I'll give you a few examples of that. Exploratory is at the edge of what is known or what is being done. You start experimenting and find something that is different, something that is novel, something that people find aesthetically pleasing. And the last one is transformational, something so new that people have not experienced it before. Even people who are in the field consider it transformational. Now let's see few examples of these, and we're not getting too too many details, but I want to bring out this not in the context of art history itself, but in the context of the technology in the art, which is what interests me more. So technology has been used in the context of art for a very long time. It is not a new thing. I mean, today we are going to see computers and AI. You are hearing about it in media, even popular media everywhere about impact of AI. But artists have not been shy in terms of using technology. And by technology here, I mean gadgets. Technology in terms of chemistry, chemical engineering has been used for a very long time. That is known. Pigments, for example, today you go to art store and you can buy any shade imaginable or unimagined for few rupees. But this was not the case all through the art history. People had to go through a lot of expense. A commonly available color called ultramarine blue came from the mines of Afghanistan, and it cost more than its weight in gold. So most of the art history, even getting paint was very difficult, and then the chemists got into act, and now today you can buy these paints which were so scarce and so rare. You can buy it in the corner store, and school children use it. But by technology here, I mean also gadgets. So on this slide, on the left-hand side, you see camera obscura. Camera obscura is just the name for pinhole camera. I'm sure some of you have used it, played with it as children. You take a box, make a small hole on one side, and you get inverted image of the scene if you let the light pass through on the other end of the box. And that's called pinhole camera. It's the simplest camera one can build at home. And people have been using it since 1700s, 1600s. It has been postulated, though not confirmed, that even painters as famous as Johannes Vermeer used camera obscura, and people have done extensive analysis of this based on the proportion of the figures, sizes, the way light is depicted, and so on. If you are not familiar with Vermeer, I'm sure you have seen at least one painting of his, which is the girl with pearl earring. It's a very famous painting. If you see it, I suggest if you have never heard about it, do Google it. I'm sure you have seen the painting somewhere or other. Very famous painting. So Dutch master in 17th century has used it. That's the postulate. Other device called camera lucida. This is where you, by using lenses and mirrors, you project the image on a piece of paper. And this was, the patent was taken in 1800s, late 1800s. And what you see on the screen is actually watercolor painting done using camera lucida. Now, why artists were interested in these kind of gadgets? Remember, 1600, 1700 is the time when the scientists were discovering properties of light and experimenting with the gadgets which had to do with light. Galileo famously used telescope. Newton refined it. So the top leading scientists of the era were playing with the optical gadgets. And it is not surprising that the artists also got interested in this new technology that was coming out. So people have used these kind of gadgets all through the art history. So artists have been more open than the society in terms of using the new technology to develop art, to explore what could be done with it, and so forth. Now that brings us to the early computer art. A person named Lapowski began creating his electric compositions in 1950. Those of you who have used cathode ray oscilloscopes for measuring waveforms and so on would immediately recognize the forms that are shown on the screen. But what this person did was he used long exposure photography to take the photos and generate pieces of art like this. Not only that, they were exhibited in the avant-garde libraries in Europe and in US. In fact, the painting that you see is actually exhibited. It is a photograph in the Albert and Victoria Museum in UK. So this is how the thing started, of course, but then the output devices, in this case, it was oscilloscope, but the output devices kept on getting better and better. The computers started becoming available more widely. Hardware became more and more powerful, and people started using computers and algorithms to generate not only mathematical computations, that was one part of it, but also experimented with art. They also, of course, experimented with playing games and writing viruses. The first virus was written almost as soon as the first operating system was installed. But for our purpose here, people started playing with art as well using computers. And here are a few examples. On left-hand side, you see falling squares in some way. And on the right-hand side, you see outputs using plotters. Plotters, remember, came in 60s, 70s, and so on. And people started seeing what could be programmed to generate a good-looking or aesthetically pleasing output. Now, your judgment and somebody else's judgment may be different, whether this constitutes art or not, or whether it is even aesthetically pleasing. But the point is, people have started exploring it at the edges of what was considered possible or interesting. How art could be generated using technology and the new output devices that started coming to the market and becoming available en masse. Now, it was not only the visual field that people were experimenting. Oops. A program called computerized haiku produced haikus like this that you see on screen. You give the program a few words, and it would generate a short haiku. In this case, I think the words were the sky and hills, something like that. And the poem that came out was, all blue in the hills I trace, pale clouds in the dusk, hush, the storm has burst. Now, whether this will pass muster with the Japanese art masters or poetry teachers, I do not know. But what is interesting to note that a short novel written by computer reached the final round of Japanese novel contest in 2018. So, mind you, this is not something that computer is doing a lookup. It is not like using Excel sheet where something is already there and it is being pulled out. It is being constructed on fly based on what the programmer is giving as the inputs. Here is another example. A program called JEP was developed at University of Edinburgh in Scotland, and it produced punning puzzles. And see whether you can test your wits against this. What is the difference between a pretty glow and a silent cat? And the computer came up with, one is a cute mitten and the other is a mute kitten. What do you call a strange market? It is a bizarre bazaar. Now, once again, this is not something that has been hard coded in. This question, once it is given, the computer is able to construct puns like this. But this is not a table lookup for those who are into computer programming. This is not a table lookup. This is being constructed on fly. Now let's take a look at a video, and I'll talk a little bit after the video.
Are you kidding? Really, a computer did that?
1 second.
Hi, Ra-
Swati, are we able to hear the audio? All right.
Yes, yes.
Programs make drawings. Drawings are made completely by the computer. This isn't the case of computer-aided art making.
Harold Cohen has been an artist and computer scientist for over 20 years. I talked with him in his studio in San Diego on the University of California campus, where he has developed his own expert system to create original art. Is the computer being creative?
I think creativity is a relative term. Clearly the machine is being creative. The program is being creative to the degree that every time it does a drawing that nobody's ever seen before,
right,
including me. I don't think it's currently as creative as I am in writing the program. I think for a program to be fully creative, in a more complete sense creative, it has to be able to modify its own performance, and that's a very difficult problem.
The computer creates original art based on rules that Harold Cohen programs. Rules that enable the computer to draw a variety of pictures that are different each time they are drawn. The pictures can be abstract art or a composition with figures that represent natural objects and people. Does it surprise you that a set of even 1,000 rules can then create really fine art?
Yes, it really does. I sometimes find myself looking at one of the drawings and thinking, come on, who are you kidding? Really, a computer did that?
You're in good health, but someday when you're gone, this computer can keep creating original drawings.
Yeah, I've always said that I'll be the first artist in history who could have a posthumous exhibition of new work. So.
So Harold Cohen that you saw in the video was an artist and a very competent engineer. So he built the system, programmed it himself, and the artwork by Aaron, which was the name of the system, was exhibited in museums and art galleries and so on. And he was asked how does he view the collaboration, and he said the collaboration between him and Aaron, the entire hardware system and software system, more like the relationship between the masters and the apprentice in the Renaissance period, where the masters had large studios and dozens of students who worked with big name artists. And sometimes master would start something and the apprentices would finish the painting and so on. So the relationship you can see now is changing. It is not merely a tool. It is becoming a collaboration, and that brings us into the era of artificial intelligence now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a series of videos where the applications are in different areas, and then we will have discussion about what it means.
This chimpanzee is using a stick to look for a meal inside an insect nest. When Jane Goodall reported this behavior in the 1960s, she overturned the widespread belief that humans alone had the creativity to use tools. It turns out that what sets us apart isn't tool use per se, but the way we copy and modify tools over time. Anthropologists call this cultural ratcheting because ideas that are distributed across a large network of minds can't be lost. Instead, they accumulate and become more complex than any individual could grasp. That's what's uniquely human, or it was. Now, engineers have devised computer programs that can also learn from the past and build on what they've learned. We've entered the age of creative machines. When we look at the innovations that have enabled human expression over the past centuries, they're easy to sort into two broad groups. Production technologies are the tools we can use to make original works. They evolve over generations, but their purpose is the same: to channel creativity from inside us to outside. And distribution technologies are how we share those works with people who can't experience them in person. From the printing press to broadcast radio to the internet's many platforms for self-publishing, these inventions expanded the potential audience until it was effectively global. But en route to that worldwide audience, a transformation occurred, a step on the ratchet toward AI, and that was digitization. Stories once printed on paper migrated to URLs. Songs once stamped into plastic were copied and shared as MP3s. And by the time cameras went into our pockets, only the enthusiasts kept buying film, which many would scan to post online. Once creative artifacts are digitized, they can be analyzed mathematically by machines designed to learn. But that took a shift in how computer programs work. Until recently, you had to tell them what to do from the top down, a rule to follow for every circumstance they would encounter. Machine learning flipped that process around. Instead of giving them rules, you give them a goal and lots of practice. The program writes its own rules from the bottom up, storing them in a vast mathematical web called a model. In the past 5 years, machine learning has given us augmented reality filters, new editing tools, and motion capture techniques. It's transformed distribution, with personalized recommendations that decide much of what we see and hear online. But AI developers didn't stop there. They kept scraping the internet to make bigger datasets to train bigger models on more powerful computers, until those models could be prompted to offer ideas of their own. They can write poems and melodies and code, make images of anything you can think of in any style you can think of. They're moving to video and 3D and VR. It's an incredible pace of change that can leave you wondering, where does human creativity fit in all this? That's a question that painters might have asked in the 1830s, when the rare and exacting skill of creating realistic images was abruptly automated by photography. The new medium was not immediately accepted as an art form by painters, but they soon began to find reference photos quite helpful. And the next generation redefined the goal of painting altogether, sparking the whirlwind of innovation that we call modern art. It's been said that every abundance creates a new scarcity. And when you sit in front of a generative model that's asking for nothing but good ideas, it's your own creativity that feels scarce. Each dot on this map is an image that's been generated with stable diffusion, and they cluster in these congested regions: robots, celebrities, animals. So many back roads for unique thinkers to travel. Getting there, though, requires some skill. What seems like a heavily automated process can in fact be directed in many ways. Whether you begin with the seed of an idea or a fully formed plan, a growing number of settings and tools let you claim more creative ownership of what happens next. And by retraining large models on more curated data, it's already possible to collect as many personalized playgrounds as you have time to think up. The output from a generative model isn't the end of the process. In skilled hands, it's just the beginning. first time, we have a technology with the attributes of a good collaborator. One that offers useful but unexpected ideas, that takes feedback and tries again. Gone are the days when we faced the blank page alone. And in exchange, you and your audience will never really know where you end and the machine begins. I won't lie and say that I know where this is going, but we know that there's no going back.
If you have not played with these type of tools, some of the things you have seen in this video might seem a bit arcane, but believe me, all of this is already there and more is getting added almost on weekly basis. Moving on, here is another short video, less than 1 minute, so please bear with me.
I got a sneak peek into how AI was used to make the world's fastest motorcycle. Now, generative AI isn't just for making cool images. You can use it to make incredibly strong and lightweight bikes that crush it in real-world tests. The AI cranks out thousands, if not 1 million different design options, and then engineers work collaboratively with the AI to refine the final design. What's wild to me is that these AI creations don't look mechanical. They look organic, sometimes even alien, like this one that looks like a rib cage or something you'd find inside a human heart. What's amazing is you can even have the AI make recommendations for what would be easy to manufacture, like this self-driving car with legs that looks like a futuristic Uber you'd find in Westworld, or designing this hydrogen fuel cell. All of these are great examples about how AI is being used to augment human creativity.
Now, if you think it is all about visual arts or text, for my musical friends here,
great music and share their work, new ways for their songs. Artists are always looking for new ways to get inspired, new ways to create great music and share their work, new ways for their songs to connect with people. Technology is and has always been a close collaborator in this. Now, AI tools are opening up a new playground for creativity. We're experimenting with new ways to let artists, songwriters, and producers instantly hear their ideas. New ways to use technology to help them create music. Like singing a melody to create a horn section. We're also starting to bring these possibilities to creators and fans with a new experiment called Dream Track. Just type in your idea and get a unique soundtrack for your short.
Baby, we've got nothing in common, but I know that I'm what you've been wanting for so long now.
The potential of AI is incredibly exciting. But with any new technology, we have to approach it responsibly, and that's not lost on us. It starts by recognizing that artificial intelligence is meant to amplify human creativity, not replace it. That's why we published a set of principles that include granting appropriate protections and unlocking new opportunities for artists. And we're partnering with some of the most creative people on the planet to make sure AI will have a positive impact on the future of music.
Now, all this creativity, whether you call it creativity or not, has led to very tricky legal issues. And let me go over it quickly. Intellectual property, just for a recap, are typically patents, copyright, trademarks, etc. And in last few years, about 8 years or so, there has been an exponential increase in publications and patents related to AI. applied to these different areas. And where the challenge is, let me briefly go over the challenges. It is nice that you can generate a music using a computer program, but once generated, who owns the copyright? Or you can generate a novel, but then who is the author? The challenges of legally speaking are on two fronts. One is AI is a consumer of intellectual property, and it also produces or can produce intellectual property. And the law is yet to catch up with this new scenario, because until now, we always had a human agency involved. Now, just last week, or 15 days back, New York Times has taken OpenAI, the makers of the chatbot ChatGPT, to court, saying that millions of articles from New York Times have been used to train the chatbot. Because mind you, New York Times archive goes back more than a century. These are editorially corrected articles in the sense that they are written by humans and checked by experts. And they have been used to train the models. And what New York Times is saying is that since you have this data that is used to train your models, we need to get some money out of it because you are making billions out of it. And this is the role of AI as a consumer of IP. The same thing is happening in the art space. Today, you can generate a painting in the style of, let's say, Van Gogh, by saying that generate a cityscape in the style of Van Gogh, and it will generate a cityscape which is in the style of Starry Nights, for example, if you are familiar with these paintings. But the point is, the programs have been trained on the output of these artists. Now, where the IP has expired, artists who are no longer with us, but artists which are living today and are making their living on their output, creative output, this is a tricky issue. So a bunch of artists have taken companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon to court, and have asked that their copyright be recognized, even in terms of scraping the data from the web. Scraping meaning taking the data from the web. And this is testing the long-held legal doctrines of fair use. So what constitutes fair use in this case, or a derivative use, is being challenged. So this is a very tricky area. It is not settled yet. But this is one part where AI, artificial intelligence, is consumer of IP that is generated by others, artists, authors, publications, and so on. But then there is another part, which is the output part. And the output part is the artwork created by AI systems, kind of AI systems that I showed you. And a person in US in August last year, he went to court and he had generated this painting that you see on the screen, a recent entrance to paradise. It was autonomously created by a program called DAVIS, most likely acronym for something. And the person said that this artwork has been generated by a program, but I, as the writer of this program, should be given the copyright over this. And the judge rejected that claim because the copyright law as of today holds that there has to be a human involved. There has to be a human to whom the rights can be assigned, because intellectual property, mind you, is a property, and property can be owned by humans, not others. There is another case that happened between 11 and 18, where a British nature artist, nature photographer, went to Indonesia and befriended a group of monkeys and set up camera and trained the monkeys to take photos and selfies. And these selfies were published on the web. Wikimedia Commons put this thing on the web. And this photographer took Wikimedia and other publications to court, saying that the copyright for the selfies which were taken by these macaques actually belong to him, since he has taken effort to go there, befriend the monkeys, and set up the equipment and so on. To make it complicated, PETA, People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, they implemented themselves, and they said the copyright should belong to the monkeys, actually, because the monkeys took the photos. And at the end, the court said no, monkeys cannot own it, and the copyright, the dispute was settled out of court. So the legal doctrine is yet to be fully tested as to who owns the copyright. And this is not a theoretical question. Billions of dollars are riding on deciding this question, both on the consumer side, in a sense, the AI consuming the IP of others, and AI producing the IP, artwork, music, and what have you. So this is the whole legal angle, and it all goes back again to the questions that we started with. What is creativity, and whether the creativity can be ascribed to machines. The other topics that we haven't covered but are related and are important are challenges and the limitations of AI today, how it is evolving, AI and philosophy, because philosophers have a say in this thing, how this is evolving. It is related to art, and art is part of life. I haven't covered AI in science and technology. I showed you a video, but lots of things are happening on that front also. AI is being used for finding novel proteins, for example, for treatment, and AlphaFold, the program by Google DeepMind, recently found proteins which in few days, which would have taken several years of experimentation. So scientific creativity, which is exploratory creativity, is also being used. That is where AI is being used. AI is also being used in games and planning. You might have heard about the AlphaGo, which beat the reigning champion from Korea, Lee Sedol. And Lee Sedol, after his loss, said that he had never seen a creative move that the program made, to which he was surprised. And Lee Sedol was world champion for 16 years, so he was not a newbie in the game. And at the end, of course, the societal impact of all of these, what is fairness, what is bias, whether artists and creators, how they can be compensated and so forth. All these are part of the larger questions. And we are in the middle of it. We haven't reached the end of it. None of the questions have been settled yet. Now, in my mind, I started with a question: can artist be? Can a machine be creative or be an artist? The actual answer, which is yet to come, is not as important as the fact that we are asking this question itself, which is very important. All through the history till now, we have not asked whether a harmonium is creative. We have not asked whether a brush should have copyright over painting that was created using a brush. But today we are seriously debating these questions, which has all these ramifications across society, in law, and so forth. Itself is very important, and I'm sure the position will evolve, and the answer will not be yes or no. That's my take, and your take may be different. The answer would be more nuanced than just yes or no kind of question that I forced you to answer at the beginning. Now, where do we go from here? And how you can use it? Few suggestions. Understand how AI works. There are very interesting and excellent tutorials. by the world's leading lights in this area on Coursera, edX, FastAI, and so on. For hobby that you may be pursuing now or always wanted to, explore how AI can be your creative collaborator. It doesn't have to be yes, no kind of answer. Just see what it can be. And even in your professional work, whatever you may be doing now, explore how AI can be your universal intern. The capabilities of these models are evolving by the day. Almost every day, new models are released. Every day, hundreds of papers are published on arXiv. If you know this is a repository of papers maintained at Carnegie Mellon. Here are some links to the courses. So if you want, please feel free to take a snapshot of this page. It will take you. These are links basically to what I found useful links to the courses and articles that explain what is AI, what is generative AI, what are large language models, how do they work. And if you don't have technology background, you don't have to understand each and every detail, but get an overview of how this is working, so that you have an idea of its power and limitations, and then you can start using it to help you. It is a tool, finally, in many ways, not a magic wand. So experiment freely and have fun. We are in the middle of all of this revolution that's sweeping the world and almost every domain that you can think of. I would love to hear from you. LinkedIn, you can find me, Ardhendu Pathak. If you search, you will find me. Occasionally, I post on Instagram. My handle is Palette Remix. And for training and mentoring requirements, if you have any in this area, I have a company called coinvent.com. These are the links here. We'll be happy to chat with you, or if you have simple questions, we'd be more than happy to collaborate and try to answer your questions. So now with that, we have come to an end of the presentation part of it. Swati, I guess we have some time for questions and answers. If you have any questions,
Yes,
please.
we have 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So any questions, please, or comments?
Okay, I am asking a question.
Yeah, please.
Ardhendu, this is Vinay, actually, your colleague from COEP, Vinay Patil.
Hi, Vinay.
Right? Hi. I have a question.
Hmm.
You started with saying that computers and AI are right now, say, collaborating with human intelligence. But there has been a fear that over the period of time, once they get more sophisticated, they will compute with human intelligence. And like what we have seen, say, industrial robots, for example, they have replaced jobs of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like that, is it likely to happen in future that, say, a Bollywood movie in 2040 or 50 will have music director as a computer and AI, and AR Rahmans and people like that will be jobless?
First of all, I don't know whether they will be jobless. Secondly, this is already happening. You can Google on YouTube. There is a short film called Sunspring, and it has been the screenplay has been written entirely by AI and enacted by real actors. But today the video capabilities are there to have the actors also the entire video to be developed. So this is already happening. But whether people will be jobless or not, for answer we have to look in the history. For example, when photography came, it did not make painters jobless. The painting world, the art world, responded with a very creative response. And the response was the art style itself changed from ultra-realistic portraits. Today, you have portraits which are even more beautiful, which bring out the soul of the person whose portrait is being drawn. So the response of the creative community will be different. It will not be linear as we see it. Now, in other areas, industrial areas, for example, there is a right fear that there will be a job loss. And as it has happened in every transformative technology, there will be a job loss. Every time a new technology comes, there will be a job loss, but new jobs get created in some other part of the economy. The third part of your comment was about whether the AI will compete with humans. They're already in many different fields. They're already competing with humans. On a little more flippant side, they should not start competing with us on our stupidity, because most of our problems are not because of our intelligence, but because of our stupidity. So that is the more worried part than the intelligence part. So I hope that answers your comments.
Can I ask a question? Do we have?
Yes.
Baki?
Yes, Mr.
My name is Ashutosh Ardhendu. This topic gives a perspective, but on technology. However, my immediate reaction is, how will this impact? Not seeking an answer, but I'm actually scared about the scholarly work that researchers do. The real, genuine, hard work that researchers put in all fields, be it biomedical, mechanical, computers. They really work hard, including in industry. I mean, we used to work so hard into making changes in automotive system, and now you give this problem to AI, and it can produce a PhD thesis without, and somebody is, well, there are two dimensions here. One, fake work going on by fake researchers, and fake output, which has no meaning. So that's a huge concern, and that was my immediate reaction after listening to you. And second reaction, what happens to, again, intellectual sports like chess? The demand on our gray cells is huge in chess, and you increase the complexity of being able to play the chess, and it's measured by a certain number. I think the grandmasters range above 3,000 or something.
Right.
Now, you don't have that pull. The AI is going to play against you, and AI is going to beat you. So it's not going to teach you, unlike a coach. Now, I'm deeply concerned that it's going to make generations to come dumb and fake. So what do you think?
See, every time a new tool comes into picture, it will make certain things obsolete. For example, I mean, a very limited example from my experience. When I was doing PhD, to find a reference, I had to go to the lab, find engineering index, take it out, and there were like every year 20 volumes would come out, and had to go painstakingly through volumes to find the right reference. Today, this could be done in 2 minutes. Now, do I regret this? No, actually, the time that I spent in going to library and looking for it could have been used to do even better research. So all these tools can be used rightly and wrongly, to your point. And the right usage should take all of us as a society to next level. And that is where the concern is, whether it will take everyone to the next level and not just select few. So the future is already here. It is just not evenly distributed. It needs to be evenly distributed to take the society to the next level. So that is the thing. But you're right. We have to watch this, and everyone have a role to play in it. Somebody had said that wars are too important to be left to generals. This technology is too important to be left to programmers and large companies. Everyone must play a role in this. Any other comments?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
Do I have a time for a question? Yeah, this is Suresh.
I am going to give 1 minute more.
Right. So, can I?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So this is Shirish Ardhendu, and first of all, thanks for a very nice, thought-provoking talk. And I would say something that new came up, and it was really not a technology thing, but it was the legal aspect of IP and AI being a consumer as well as creator of AI, IP, and how does the legal frameworks treat it. So thanks for that. That's thought provoking. I'm sure I'll have one-on-one talk with you to dwell on this topic. So going by a few questions and the queries that not just came in today's talk, but in general, I think one of the follies is this nomenclature of this tool. I believe that it's been wrongly named as artificial intelligence, because that is causing a hell of a lot of things. This is just a tool. Okay, if we would have called, if the nomenclature guys in the com science field would have called it self-learning programs or something like that, it wouldn't have caused so much of confusion in people's mind as to, is this going to compete with me? Is it going to compete with my creativity? It's just more sophisticated tool, as you said. I like that idea. How do humans distinguish? Because they keep making their tools better and better and better. That is how they got better.
Yeah.
And this is part of that evolution of tools. So we have landed with a tool who are much superior than what tools we had about a year back in this domain.
Absolutely.
And this name is causing huge amount of confusion in people's mind as to what this is going to do to us. Anyway, thank you very much. I just thought I'll add this thought-provoking stuff.
Sure. Thanks, Shirish, and thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining this evening. And Mr. Pathak, that was a wonderful new perspective for all of us to look at AI and creativity in a new way. And I hope we can have more conversations like this in the future. So thank you for your time, and thanks everyone for joining in.